What if this world is just another planet's hell?
I'm Mike, and in this episode, could Earth be a vegan planet's hell? We're gonna match up an alternate reality Earth in which all humans are vegan and compare it to the Earth that we currently live on. And aliens will be placing bets on which one is gonna self-destruct first. Here is the Earth we currently live on. We have about 7 billion people that eat 60 billion chickens per year, 90 billion fish and sea creatures, about a billion pigs, and the list goes on. And then there's vegan Earth, also 7 billion people, but no animal products consumed whatsoever. And it just so happens that aliens are finding some interest in betting on this and see which one kills itself first. We actually have one here with us today, beaming down from his flying saucer.
I'm gonna make big money. Just give me some info already.
It's pretty abrasive if you ask me. But I'll get started. Let's look at the people. The people on Earth are often overweight and unhealthy. On vegan Earth, however, judging from population studies, vegans average at the normal BMI, which means that this planet would be much trimmer. There are also several studies showing that vegans have lower incidences of the leading diseases that omnivores have, so vegan Earth would be overall a bit healthier. But that's not that important with self-destruction. Let's get into some of the stuff that is. Alright, let's look at how these different planets use their land resources. On our current Earth, we dedicate about 45% of the land surface to growing feed for and raising livestock. On a vegan Earth, however, since plants are 10 times as efficient to grow in terms of space, they would be freeing up about 40% of their land area, which they could then use to restore into natural habitats, use for solar farms, or they could just give everybody a chunk of land because they can. But how about water resources? On normal Earth in the USA, we use about 55% of our water for animal agriculture. Worldwide, depending on the source, is anywhere between 1/5 and 1/3 of our water resources. So on vegan Earth, we would free up anywhere between 20 to 50% of our water, which we could use to green some deserts, we could take infinite showers, we could put fountains everywhere.
Yeah. But I'm looking here and I'm seeing pretty much all water. Tell me about this ocean.
Okay, I'm getting to it. So, Earth, true, 2/3 of it is covered by the ocean. And because of our fishing practices and all the bykill, we pull about 2.7 trillion creatures out of the ocean every year. Because of fishing practices, normal Earth has about 3/4 of its fisheries exploited. And if you're concerned about the marine life in general, 25% of all marine life is in coral reefs. And because of fishing practices, 55% of those are considerably damaged through fishing. Vegan Earth, however, has no need to fish at all, which means its coral reefs would be healthier, and the red zones that represent fish habitat destruction from fishing in this time-lapse chart would completely vanish.
What about all these dead zones? I can count 500 of these things. It looks like someone's just pooping in the ocean.
I would have chose different words, but it's true. We have massive dead zones that are caused by agricultural runoff, which create algae blooms, which eat up all the oxygen, and then all the fish die. But we can't assume that vegan Earth is perfect and doesn't use synthetic fertilizers. Let's say they do. But worldwide, 50% of grain is fed to livestock, and all those synthetic fertilizers are being sprayed on grain. So it's fair to say that we would see a reduction in dead zones close to around 40 or more percent.
Look, man, I gotta get back to my game of Black Hole Jack. Get to the global warming already. We know that's what's really screwing these planets.
Okay, I'm getting to it. So it turns out that according to the FAO, 18% of greenhouse gases are created by animal agriculture. This is not where it ends. It turns out that since 91% of rainforest destruction is from animal agriculture, and some people, depending on the source, say 10 to 17% of greenhouse gases are from deforestation, the numbers could be much higher. But it doesn't stop there. Global warming is not only defined by how many greenhouse gases you're spewing, it's also defined by how much greenhouse gas you're sequestering or trapping. That brings me to the lungs of the Earth. According to Amazon Watch, rainforests sequester about 20% of our carbon. And since we're destroying 91% of our rainforests on normal Earth, vegan Earth is starting to look a lot better. It's hard to pinpoint, but it seems that vegan Earth would be experiencing about 2/3 of the global warming that our normal Earth is experiencing. This means that if global warming was going to lead to complete ecosystem destruction in about 150 years, vegan Earth might have another half century or so.
Just tell me about war. Let's get to the interesting stuff. I want to see nukes and self-destruction and battles. Come on, let's go.
You got some issues, man. But I'll get into war anyway. It's impossible to really define this, but as Pythagoras said,
As long as man continues to be the ruthless destroyer of lower living beings, he will never know health or peace. For as long as men massacre animals, they will kill each other.
I would venture to say that a vegan Earth would have a lot less war than normal Earth, not just from a compassion standpoint, but also from a resource standpoint. A lot of wars are driven by scarce resources. A lot of warring tribes in Africa are fighting over these diminishing resources. And as we know, in Africa, that is largely driven by desertification, and as this UN data shows, that is mainly from overgrazing and grazing livestock. And a vegan Earth would just have a lot more resources freed up. That 40% of new land could be used to grow feedstocks for biofuel, to farm renewable resources, and those things would make us a lot less likely to go to war over oil. Also, we're growing at least enough food for 10 billion people, and we're feeding half of our grain to animals, and so starvation would be a lot less likely. So to summarize, a vegan Earth, in addition to being fitter, would also have a lot more land and water resources. Their oceans would be healthier, with less damage to coral reefs and less dead zones, and we'd have less resource-related wars. So what's your conclusion, gambling addict alien dude?
Look, I might be a horrible alien person with a gambling problem, but I do one thing right. I put my money in the right place, and it looks to me like vegan Earth's the winner.
So there you have it. And all I know is I would rather live on a vegan Earth, and there are plenty of others who would as well. They are the pigs and chickens and fish and monkeys and diabetic children.